You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
You wanted it. You got it. A radio program that helps teach you options trading inside and out, basic to complex. This is Options Boot Camp. Whether you want to learn how to protect your portfolio, generate income, or even become a master of volatility, your Options Boot Camp drill instructors, Mark Longo and Dan Passarelli, will break it all down for you. Old trading walks into a bar. New trading raises it. That's Tasty Trade. Keep focused with news feeds that matter. See opportunity differently in analysis mode. Chart your heart out with over 300 indicators. Plus, you can get low pricing, lots of education, and a support team that really gets how traders trade. It's no wonder Investopedia named Tasty Trade the best broker for options in 2024. Genius loves company. Go to tastytrade.com/podcasts and see for yourself. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. Fall in boot. It's time to get into peak options trading shape. It's time for Options Boot Camp.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. Once again, it is time for episode 2 of the new year of Options Boot Camp. Hope your new year is off to a great start. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as on the network upon which all of you are binging. And for the handful of you just listening to OBC, hey, we love you out there. But B, you're missing out on quite a bit of other content. Make sure you subscribe to the full network wherever you get your favorite podcast. And the day is drawing near, listeners, of Volatility Deathmatch 2.0. The Flowmaster versus Scott Nations. 2 men enter, only one can leave. Who will emerge victorious? Check out the pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Of course, awesome pro Q&As going up over there, as well as, of course, options oddities. If you like unusual activity, yeah, we kind of, I won't say we pioneered it, but we were very early on the unusual options activity front. A lot of that going up on options oddities, live streams, giveaways, pro trading crates going out the door all the time. Awesome exclusives like the Vol Deathmatch. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more as we learn who's joining us on the old OBC for episode 2 of the new year. And the streak is alive. Once again, we are joined by the black-hatted one himself, Daniel Gypsy Rose Passarelli III, Esquire. Mr. Gypsy Rose, how goes it, sir?
Oh, it's going pretty darn swell.
You're one of those 4-name guys, huh? You can't just go with 3. You can't be content with that. You got to go with 4.
And that's not even my confirmation name in there.
Oh,
either.
yeah. We forgot about Mohammed, which is a strange confirmation choice, but hey, you know, to each their own out there, sir. You know, we don't judge here on the program at the end of the day. Dan is about to fall off his chair, listen, which means I have done my job as the host. Listeners. All right. While Dan recovers his wits, let's keep rolling into a little bit of the old mail call.
Mail call. Time to look at questions submitted by our listeners.
All right, everybody. Let's get down to business. It is the first mail call of the new year, Mr. Dan. Time to open up the old mailbag, see what folks have on the docket for us. I thought it'd be fun to kick things off with this one, Dan. A little bit of love to start the new year. We should all start the new year with a little bit of love. This particular nugget comes from LJ. LJ just wants to say, hey, guys. Well, hey to yourself. LJ says, just wanted to say Happy New Year to both of you. OBC is my favorite podcast. Wow. I've learned a lot from you guys and I thought I would start the new year by saying thanks. You're the best. Dan, I always say our listeners are the best, but they truly are. Listeners like this take the time to write in to say Happy New Year to us. It warms the old cockles of even a black heart like yours, sir.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, that is what keeps me going on the show, man. Just getting the feedback because, we're just here sharing our time. And if nobody was listening, it'd be a bummer. So it's nice to hear that we're providing value out there in the world.
Well, I do hear Mama Passarelli is a big fan of the show. So I kind of do it for her. But, you do it for whoever you choose, Dan, at the end of the day. Let's keep rolling. Let's go out here to the creatively named RDO99. He or she wants to know, and this one kind of struck me and made me think, Dan. I was like, oh, this is not one we've received before, at least worded this way. What's one option strategy you think most traders misuse? So we've been asked all the time, what's our favorite strategy? What's one that traders should use more? What's a forgotten? We get all types of variations on the question of, what X strategy would you recommend or something like that. But this is an interesting one. What option strategy do I think most traders misuse? That's an interesting one. I have to put on my thinking cap for this one, Dan. I mulled over a few strategies as soon as I saw this come in. Honestly, you could do a whole list. In fact, maybe this is an episode. I might have to steal RDO99's idea for a whole episode, Dan, of the most misused option strategies. What do you think?
We could do like a little mini series, like a mini podcast spinoff on, don't trade it this way. That could be the name of the show. Don't trade this.
Oh yeah, don't trade this. There we go. I like that.
But yeah, our RDO99, is that sounds like one of the robots from Star Trek, or no, not Star Trek.
That's R2D2 you're thinking of, but yes, close.
Yeah. But RDO sends out some pretty good ways to kick off the discussion here. Long puts, cash secured puts, straddles, symmetrical butterflies. I would say all of those I've seen traders have bad experiences with. I would say long puts and straddles for sure. That's just because the deck's a little stacked against you. They're just hard to trade how the textbooks tell you to trade them. But I would say misused, because even if you use them right, those are hard to trade. I would say misused cash secured puts right there, baby. That hands down is the most misused option strategy of all. And that one we can do a whole show on too.
That's why I had that on my list there as well, because you're right. Yeah, cash secured puts for a lot of reasons. I take umbrage at the name first. Anything that says secured, it makes it sound far less risky than it actually is. I have the cash, it's secure. What could go wrong? Obviously you're selling a put. Many things can go wrong in that equation. So I take
my beer.
Exactly. I take umbrage with the name first off. I've never liked that notion of cash secured puts. Maybe you call them draw a line in the sand put. It might convey a little more of what you got going on there than, cash secured. I did it all. I'm good. So that way I agree with you just on the name alone. And then you're right. The use case behind it. There's so many ways. We talked about it just recently on the show. Do you really want the stock when you're selling that put, or do you want that tasty, tasty juice? And I get it. The juice is tasty, Dan. We all like the squeeze of the juice. We want more juice in our lives. But sometimes you got to take the stock. And, that's the downside of getting the juice. So, yeah, I think that could definitely fall in there for me. I had long puts, too, just because we were just talking about these. Maybe I have puts on the brain because we are thinking about doing a hedging episode again coming up in the near future. And you're right. That is one that is so hard to get right. Outside of that scenario, what'd you say on the last episode? Bitcoin is worthless and it all goes to zero. That's a scenario where I think anyone and their grandmother could buy a put and do all right. But outside of those, or maybe on April 8th of last year, just about any put you bought on April 8th last year. You looked pretty good. April 9th, not as much. So again, that's why it's challenging, right? That's why puts are so hard. So, you're right. You see the textbooks. Oh, you long a stock, you buy a put. Now your break even is at this level here. That's all you got to do. Set it and forget it, Ronco style, and live to trade another day. And there's so much more that goes on. And also scenarios like back a few years ago when we had a sell off, but it was kind of gradual. Those puts sucked. Everyone was writing in saying, why do these puts suck? We talk about the bullseye with butterflies, but there's a bullseye, really, a sweet spot, maybe a sweet scenario with long puts that you really need to hit in order for them to really work. And outside of that, 9 times out of 10, they are challenging. Symmetrical butterflies, I'll agree with that too, just because those are another one. Those are literally a sweet spot. You have to hit one exact target, otherwise the fly is pretty much worthless. So, and then straddles are just so situational. That said, you have become more of a straddle guy in recent years. Is that fair to say out loud, Dan? I definitely hear you talking more straddles than I think I can ever recall in the history of the show.
Yeah. I mean, I have been. I mean, honestly, this year, just writing the book on the wheel, I pulled back on a lot of my other active option trading strategies. So I haven't been looking at straddles quite as much over the last few months. But yeah, I would say for the last 3 years, I've been talking straddles a lot more, and they've just been working out better a lot more.
Yeah, when we had some intraday vol again, all of a sudden straddles are winning trades again. Go figure out there. But there are many. I think we have settled on the cash secured put, at least for now, for many reasons. The name alone is misleading. Really quickly, Dan, you want to hit your couple of reasons why you think the cash secured put is so misleading, or I should say so misused?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is how it's described. When people teach it, they say, well, you have to be okay getting assigned. And so people say, well, okay, I want to do this cash secured put. So if I get assigned, yeah, okay, I'm okay with it. But no, like that's kind of just ass backwards. You don't decide to do the put and then have to be okay getting assigned. You either choose to, hey, I want to get assigned on this, or which, like, at least half the time for me, that is my objective. I sold some Apple puts just recently. I've been selling Apple puts for a couple of months now, and they're finally in the money. And I'm looking at it like, well, should I adjust these? No, definitely not. I did it because I want to get assigned. And then on the other side of that is if you want to skate and not get assigned, which should be your objective. That's one of your objective choices going in. Either I want to get assigned or I do not want to get assigned. There really is no, I'm okay getting assigned. Like that should not factor into the equation. I want to, or I don't want to. And if I want to, I'm happy if I do. And if I don't want to, I have a plan for what happens if it looks like I'm about to. So it just starts with bad education on it, really, I think.
Yeah, I think this is fodder for a future full episode, RDO 99. I think there's a lot of grist from the mill here. We could have you folks send in your suggestions. Speaking of the folks, Dan, we got some suggestions in our chat. We've got Mr. Unlimited saying he was hoping it was going to be really, really tight flies. Those are just mostly dumb anyway. What are you doing a really tight fly? That, again, talk about having to hit the sweet spot. I mean, I like a nice broken wing. If you're going to buy it, room to run. I guess if you're selling it, maybe, but even then, that's a challenging way to set up a fly. We have Nickel saying 0 DTE butterflies. A lot of butterflies, Dan. Those can obviously be challenging because the window is very limited for those. So you're doing a 0 DTE fly, you really got to hit it. There's no time to adjust or anything like that. And then we have a suggestion here for iron condors. So many moving parts with those alone. So yeah, iron condors, 4 legs, that can also be challenging. How do you set it up? Are you a one standard deviation guy? Are you a straddle guy? Or you like to do other things? When do you take it off? again, with all those multi-leg trades, I think taking it off is where the lion's share of the issues come. Anyone can put it on. How you take it off, would you take off one leg at a time? You take off one piece, take off the whole thing. There's many different ways. So yeah, those are some great suggestions here. Chat saying I've been burned on iron condors. I've been burned on every trade strategy before. The real key is to do very little volume in those types of trades. So again, that goes back to sizing as well. If you handle your sizing, then you won't get run over. But again, just clearly, RDO, you have hit a nerve here. This is an interesting topic, so I think we will investigate it on a future episode in more detail. We'll be sure to credit you when we do. In fact, I'm going to copy this question right now when the episode comes up, listeners. We will credit you on the show. All right, there we go. Credit abounds here, Dan. We're very, very equal opportunity people here on the show. All right, let's keep going out to Nance. Remember I said on the last episode we'd have a question about crypto options. This comes from Nance with an E, so not Nancy, but just Nance. Nance wants to know about IBIT. She says, is IBIT exploding in volume and doing more volume than VIX the story of the options market in 2025? You know, we've been talking IBIT for a while on our Crypto Rundown show. We had a question similar to this come in just on our pro Q&A we did with our pro members, with our good buddy Rich Excel, Mr. Stay Vigilant, just yesterday on the network there. So something along these lines. But Dan, IBIT was certainly one of the big stories. You can argue if it was the biggest last year, but it's definitely one of the big stories of the options market. I mean, coming from literally nowhere, starts trading in November of 2024, and almost instantly it's a hit out of the gate. As they mentioned, by the middle of the year, if not earlier, it was already rivaling VIX in volume. In fact, at the end of the year, when VIX was putting up 1 million contracts a day, so was IBIT. They were both averaging 1 million contracts a day. So IBIT, serious volume, also changing the way Bitcoin vol and skew perform. You know, bring in all these new players to the game now. For as long as you've had our Crypto Rundown show, Dan, the skew was bid to the upside in Bitcoin. Why? Because the hodlers, they wanted to buy the upside, right? Now everyone can play in IBIT with the options. So now all of a sudden, all your premium harvesters are coming from the S&P and they're going to IBIT, and guess what they're doing? They're selling calls and they're buying puts against their long IBIT. And so now that skew has rotated and it is decidedly negative and may never go back, quite frankly. So it certainly was a big story. What do you think, Dan? Is it the biggest story in the options market last year?
Oh, geez, man. I don't know if it was the biggest story. I mean, it's all good stories have some drama to it. That's definitely, it's definitely a good story, but geez, I don't know if it's the biggest story. I mean, when you have a move like the Liberation Day business, I mean, how can that not be one of the biggest stories? I mean, there's a lot of contenders.
Is it better than the ending of Stranger Things? How about that? Is that a better story?
The first season of Stranger Things, I loved. The second one, I liked a lot. And then I gave up. I don't know. I just gave up on it.
I don't think you're alone. I mean, it's a decade. It took a decade to unfold. It's kind of hard for people to have patience for a story for that long. I don't care what payoff you're giving them. A decade, it's kind of challenging. But yes. So yes, I guess that's our official statement on the show. IBIT, a better story than Stranger Things. There we go. No, I'm just kidding. Don't come at us, all the Stranger Things lovers. I had fun. Dan didn't even watch the last season, so he has no vote there. Let's keep going. Speaking of voting, Dan, and end of year stuff, Jim Gallagher wants to know, do you think it's fair to say that at the start of 2026, most investors have at least some exposure to options in their portfolio? You know, he's not wrong from a volume perspective. We just broke down the numbers from OCC for 2025, another record year, Dan, about 15.25 billion, about 3 billion contracts, almost exactly more than 2024. So certainly a lot of people are trading options, but Jim wants to know, do you think most people have at least some exposure to options now in their portfolio?
Honestly, I would say no. I don't think most people have some exposure. I think most people who are self-directed traders should. And people who aren't self-directed traders have somebody else managing it better, but they probably don't. So no, I don't think it's fair to say that. I think it's sad to say that it's probably not true. I think
you're right. I think there's also a fair contingent out there, people who have options exposure and are unaware of it. You know, they have a lot of these funds that incorporate derivatives in some capacity, usually some sort of overriding or overlay. And so they have exposure to options without any knowledge of it, which you could argue is even more dangerous because you should know what you have in your portfolio and how it's constructed at the very least. I think there is definitely an audience out there. Let's call them the shadow options market, Dan. They're trading options. They are contributing to that 15.25 billion contracts without even knowing it, which again is kind of wild. So if you think, hey, I don't touch those crazy options things, first off, what are you doing listening to an option show? We like you, but hey, that's an interesting show to choose for your podcast listening. And then B, you probably have some you're not aware of. Maybe check your portfolio. Look at all the 0-day writing funds that launched in the past year, right, Dan? You have a piece of any of those, guess what? You're writing options. There's a litany of funds out there that incorporate derivatives in some capacity. And again, a lot of that is accreting back to that volume we're seeing in the industry at the end of the day. So there is a good chance a large percentage of people out there have options exposure and don't even know it. All right, that music means we've come to the end of another sojourn through the world of options boot camping. But you know what? If you say, man, I need more in my life, especially more guys named Dan, guess what? You're in luck. If you're hanging out in the pro, it's Dan squared. Well, technically Dan cubed day because this Dan came on twice already. And now right after him, we got Dan the Man Gramsa coming up. So it's Dan cubed day on the network. So yet another reason you should be hanging out in the pro because you get Dan in your ear holes after this Dan immediately. Otherwise, you got to wait until it hits the network. And Mr. Dan, if they don't want to wait to hear from you, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, we talked a lot about cash secured puts in this show. If that's your jam, head over to my Substack, which is Wealth Building with Options, because I write a lot about cash secured puts and covered calls. It's all about investing with options. So I'd love to welcome you to check that out.
Check him out, Wealth Building with Options. Check him out over there at Market Taker as well, markettaker.com. Don't forget the second T for Theta. And while you're checking things out, again, check out the folks who help bring you this show here, our friends over there at Tasty Trade, tastytrade.com/podcast, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Tell them we sent you. They will certainly be happy to hear. That's going to do it for us on OBC. Back again in a few minutes with Dan the Man Gramsa to talk all things futures. It was a wild year in 2025. That includes everything. That includes Bitcoin. That includes crude oil. Guess what? Gold and silver, big players in there, as well as equities. You name it. It's going to be on the futures rundown coming up in a little bit. I see our chat saying Dan's about to give the big adios to 2020. Yes, he is going to give the big adios. In fact, maybe we should steal that for the title of the episode. But nonetheless, should be a good one. Check that out. Back after the closing bell to break down the whole day's worth of action on the Hot Options Report. And then back again with our usual array of content until we're back next week. Another episode of OBC. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Old trading walks into a bar. New trading raises it. That's Tasty Trade. Keep focused with news feeds that matter. See opportunity differently in analysis mode. Chart your heart out with over 300 indicators. Plus, you can get low pricing, lots of education, and a support team that really gets how traders trade. It's no wonder Investopedia named Tasty Trade the best broker for options in 2024. Genius loves company. Go to tastytrade.com/podcasts and see for yourself. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.